Folks, next on Roland Martin Unfiltered for Wednesday, November 14th, 2018, prison reform, bipartisan. Yeah, Donald Trump actually gets behind this bill. We'll explain to you what it means, but some Democrats are still not satisfied, says it should go far enough. Also, before he was essentially fired, Jeff Sessions made it harder to force police departments to respect the civil rights of Americans. We'll explain how he is all about making the police feel more comfortable. Also in Georgia, Stacey Abrams moves closer to a runoff in that state as more votes are counted and more court hearings are ongoing. Also, the recount in Florida goes on, but no new results yet. Also a big issue, hate crimes are up again, 60% targeting African Americans. But Donald Trump says it's all good. A professor who called the cops on a black student in Texas with her feet up has been removed from her classroom. The student has been invited back in. We'll give the latest on that story. Plus, another crazy white woman doing more stupid stuff. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
Folks, when Jeff Sessions was fired last week as Attorney General, well, he said he resigned, but yeah, he was fired. He did his best to screw everyday Americans and support police. Now, of course, we've covered his speeches here on Roland Martin Unfiltered, where he pretty much said that cops, the morale was down because of consent decrees. Well, guess what he did? He left behind a memorandum sharply curtailing the use of consent decrees. Those decrees are court-enforced agreements to overhaul local police departments accused of abuses and civil rights violations. The memo means that the decrees used aggressively by the Obama-era Justice Department will be more difficult to get. Joining me right now, a couple of folks who are very familiar with this particular issue is Billy Murphy. Billy is an attorney out of Baltimore, one of the places where, of course, Sessions tried to get rid of a consent decree but got slapped down by a federal judge. But also Reddit Hudson, who leads a police accountability group out of St. Louis. And so, gentlemen, glad to have both of you. Reddit, I want to start with you. Jeff Sessions consistently hated these consent decrees. standing before a cop saying that he wanted to pull back because it was hurting their morale. He gave a speech in Chicago where he talked about how cops were slowing down their enforcement. In Baltimore, he literally tried to get rid of that consent decree, but the police department and the mayor said, wait a minute, we're in agreement with it. This is shameful what he did, leaving the DOJ after he got fired.
Jeff Sessions is who he is. He was a white supremacist. He is a white supremacist. Unfortunately, he was appointed to the highest position in law enforcement in our country, and he effectively sought to push a white supremacist agenda. He has a history of being anti-civil rights, and obviously he thought his most effective work could be done in the law enforcement arena, where he was pro-law enforcement, and has left, as you said, a legacy now on his way out the door of positioning police departments to act with even more impunity than they have in the past. But unfortunately for him, I think the grassroots work that's been done around this country and the reform efforts that have been led by some in law enforcement, including many of my colleagues, will ultimately see us create the kind of reforms and accountability that we know should exist for police officers that violate our human rights, civil rights, and civil liberties.
Billy Murphy, first of all, this is what he actually did with this. First of all, instead of having career folks in DOJ make the decisions, he said that the political appointees will be making the decision when it comes to these consent decrees. Also, with these consent decrees, and with it, lawyers must lay out evidence of additional violations beyond unconstitutional behavior. What the hell is that? I mean, what additional evidence beyond them operating in an unconstitutional manner? And he's also putting a date, an end date on this that's not based upon when they actually get it done, but simply says at the outset, here's the end date. And so cops could simply slow this whole thing down.
Well, you know, like Donald Trump, Jeff Sessions has been a racist all his life by exposure to unquestioned racism in his own family, in his community, in his politics, with his colleagues, etc. He's a dyed-in-the-wool white supremacist, just like the previous person speaking said. And Donald Trump appointed him, which means Donald Trump shares his white supremacy, and he got that honestly from his father. And we have to deal with these people harshly because they're a menace to our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness as African Americans in this society. And this is a policy based on color. He wants mass incarceration to continue, as does Donald Trump. They're both in denial about the nature and extent of it, as is the president has pointed out over and over. And so we have to resist. We have to do everything in our power to mobilize even stronger so that we can prevent this kind of racism. And that starts with what we have to do in the House of Representatives about the president. Clearly, this president should be impeached. We've never had a person in office as outrageous as he is, as evil as he is, as lacking in empathy as he does, and who really, really has shown over and over again that he has no concern for the life, liberty, and happiness of whites or blacks who happen to be middle class or below. So that's what we've got to do.
Reddit is very interesting. Here we go to my computer here. This is what the New York Times wrote. Mr. Sessions conceded in his memo that consent decrees are sometimes the only way to ensure that government agencies follow the law. But he argued that changes were necessary because agreements that impose long-term, wide-ranging obligations on local governments could violate their sovereignty. I mean, talk about nonsensical. Your job is to protect. Your job is to protect citizens from abusive cops. Oh, this is going to somehow hurt their sovereignty. No, that is the point of the federal government saying that these are unconstitutional behavior. What the hell?
It's ridiculous on its face. What he's arguing is that it prevents them from abusing your rights further. You stop them from abusing your rights for too long a period of time, and that's not satisfactory for him. As Mr. Murphy said, our responsibility is to resist, and you're seeing that across the country. I'm sitting right now in the office of the St. Louis Circuit Attorney, Kim Gardner, who's one of the most progressive attorneys, DAs in the country right now pushing for sentencing reform, alternative sentencing, and she's very clear and intentional about addressing the systemic issues that we see produced by policies that are promulgated by people like Jeff Sessions and his ilk. We can defeat that collectively, and we will.
Reddit, last question to you. Obviously, the Attorney General has lots of leeway, and so the only way this really gets changed if a Democrat is elected president and installs an Attorney General who can throw out this memorandum by Jeff Sessions.
Yeah, and I think we see the makings of an interesting race in 2020. I think in spite of the fact that given the Republicans' dedication to voter disenfranchisement, voter suppression, purging voter rolls, ridiculous gerrymandering, and every other way that they can use to deny us the right to vote, I think the 2020 race is shaping up as a referendum on Donald Trump, and he's failed miserably in his capacity as the leader of this nation. I think we'll see a change.
Billy Murphy, final comment.
This is something that is so terrifying to everybody who understands how the president thinks. Not only has he put a toady in as his new acting attorney general, but it looks like he has set a course where he's going to get rid of Mueller. He's going to get rid of Rosenstein. And if the Republicans cave to this, we will descend into lawlessness. It is a fortunate thing that we got the House. I wish we'd gotten the Senate, but the blue wave was real. And we need to take full advantage of this opportunity because we may not get another one before things like martial law will be declared and Donald Trump is completely ignoring the Constitution and the rights of all Americans. We could become a fascist country. Many people think that we're at the same stage when Hitler pretended to be a reformer who believed in democracy. Boy, did people learn that was a lie. Among the thousands of lies this president has told. We don't want any child in America to emulate this man's behavior. We don't want him as a role model for any child in America. He is a disgrace to this country.
All right, then. Billy Murphy, as well as Reddit Hudson. I surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we're going to go to our second top story, and that is the whole issue of prison reform. Donald Trump today threw his support behind a bipartisan effort to address some of these critical issues with what is called the First Step Act. And this act was passed by the U.S. House. It was championed and led by Congressman Hakeem Jeffries of New York. He also worked very closely with Jared Kushner, whose father served time in federal prison and has been a huge proponent of this particular bill. Now, the stumbling block for the Trump administration was actually Jeff Sessions. He, as you just heard, was a hardliner, fought this thing left and right constantly before it was even being crafted. Now, here's the issue. What Trump did was, in order to satisfy Republicans, he chose to push off this bill until after the midterm elections. Here's the problem. You now have Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who is saying they may not have enough time to actually get the bill through. Well, why in the hell did you delay it? So many senators have not even seen the bill. The other issue with this particular bill is that Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, a member of the House Judiciary Committee, she was one of the folks who voted against it. She wants more changes to it. But they were able to move this forward because the split in the House and the Senate, Chuck Grassley, who heads the Senate committee, he also wanted it to deal with the issue of mandatory minimums. Same thing with Dick Durbin of Illinois. Senator Cory Booker, he still has some issues with this bill. But right now, you do have bipartisan support. But McConnell, though, is saying that he needs the 60 votes to get it passed. I want to bring up my pal law, Victoria Burke, a writer for National Newspaper Publishers Association, NPA. Also, Joe Madison, host Joe Madison Show on Sirius XM Radio. Malik Abdul, Republican communications consultant. And folks, this is, first of all, it's called the First Step Act. Mm-hmm. Democrats have been calling for quite some time for a strong criminal justice reform bill. Joe, one of the mistakes that they made was they had a strong bill that could have been passed before Obama left office. They assumed Hillary Clinton was going to win, and then they said we can get an even stronger bill. Well, she lost. Now you're left in a situation, Republicans can control the House, control the Senate.
Democrats control the House.
No. Democrats don't control the House until January.
Well, yeah. Oh, you mean now?
Right now.
Oh, yes, right now.
So right
yes.
now, Republicans still control it, and so they're looking to try to get this thing done before the new Congress takes over. The issue is, will you have enough Democrats stand back and block this from happening now that they have actually regained the House? Your thoughts?
Well, that's the big question, and that is, will the Democrats hold fast on this? I suspect, in short, that they will, only because they have the upper hand, 2 months from now. So the thing we need to encourage them to do is to hold tight. That's really where we are at this point, because if they don't, then that blue wave really doesn't matter much to any of us.
Now, Lauren, initially this was only really going to be about prison, affecting only a handful of federal prisoners. But because Senator Dick Durbin was a holdout on the Senate side, they had to make some changes. And so when you look at some of the changes, they had to add the issue of mandatory minimums in this deal. And so one of the things that they're saying, they're going to be shortening those sentences, and also for some nonviolent offenders, but also changing the 3 strikes law. Instead of it being from life in prison, now would be up to 25 years. Again, Jeff Sessions and other people like Tom Cotton of Arkansas, who are the hardliners, they are still going to fight this. And so even though Donald Trump today, through his support behind it, is not guaranteed, I'm going to get your comment after we play this comment from Trump today at a news conference at the White House.
Working together with my administration over the last 2 years, these members have reached a bipartisan agreement. Did I hear the word bipartisan? Is that, there you go. Did I hear that word? Huh? That's a nice word. Bipartisan agreement on prison reform legislation known as the first step. And that's what it is. It's a first step, but it's a very big first step.
Lauren, the weird thing here, you get people like the Koch brothers and their foundation who align with folks like Van Jones and others who believed in criminal justice reform, who were pushing Republicans on this. And then hardliners are going, wait a minute, what the hell? We're not used to seeing y'all joining forces.
Yeah, well, I think this is actually an example of some fairly good bipartisan work on the part of Doug Collins, a Republican in the House, and Hakeem Jeffries. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. It is interesting to think about Dick Durbin and mandatory minimums. When they did the crack cocaine disparity mandatory minimum, he didn't fight particularly hard for that. But once a Republican gets in office, now he's fighting for it. But hey, whatever it takes. It does have a little bit of sentencing and a little bit of stuff that is hard to implement unless you fund it, like the stuff about expanding days in halfway houses and vocational training. You need funding for that, so you have to be appropriating that money every Congress. That kind of makes it difficult. But the thing about criminal justice reform and sentencing reform is that we got to be the #1 incarcerator in the world incrementally over a 30 and 40-year period, and you wind that back very, very gradually. It's definitely better than nothing. A lot of people say, it doesn't go far enough. Obviously, Cory Booker did put out a Dear Colleague in May saying that. You were saying
fired back at him.
He fired back hard, and he was right, because Hakeem Jeffries was right, because doing something is better than doing nothing. I'm not sure why Cory Booker was, other than the fact that there is a Republican in the White House, I couldn't figure out what the motivating factor there was. You'd mentioned Jared Kushner before. He had sat down with a bunch of journalists back on May 1st. I sat down with him for an hour, and I'm sure you did around the same time. I actually talked to him this morning about this, and unfortunately it's off the record, so I can't say what he said. But suffice it to say that again, these are not huge changes, but it's definitely better than nothing.
Malik?
Yeah, I think it's great, and this is one of those instances where the administration, every day we kind of get caught up in what comes out of Donald Trump's mouth, but forget that the federal government still moves along.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. This is something that we've been looking at since early spring. As it passed out of the House, some of the things that I'm interested in are the home confinement rules, changes to home confinement rules. I think it was 360 to 59 votes, I think, out of the House. You know, that's as far as bipartisanship, I think that's actually a great thing. One of the other things that I'm excited about with this is it actually reduces prison time ahead of time as opposed to at the end of it. Those are things as far as sentencing reform that we can get behind. I'm looking forward to it. I think the administration is right to push it. Jerron, everybody knows Jerron K. Smith at the White House. Jerron has been pushing this for a while, so I'm looking forward to it. I would probably say, as far as Cory Booker is concerned, is that he's running for president.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Can I just add one other point? Because what everybody's saying is right, and I think we should applaud this bipartisanship. But let me go back to one thing. I think one of the reasons you've got this bipartisanship state by state is something we learned a long time ago. This has been extremely expensive.
Yep.
Yeah.
This has been, look, always follow the money.
Yeah.
I don't care if you live in a red state or a blue state. What has happened is that we have found out, and we knew this years ago, that this has cost states big time money.
Yep.
Well, that's definitely true. Texas learned that and started wheeling things back.
Well,
but it's
Texas,
interesting
Kansas, Republican governors. Lauren, I had a major civil rights leader in 2012 tell me that they had more support for Republican governors on sentencing reform and prison reform than the Democrats.
Yeah.
Because the problem is the Democrats did not want to be tagged with, oh, you're being soft on the crime. The Republicans were saying we can't afford this. I remember on an episode of Washington Watch, I had a brother who was out of Baltimore who was angry with that, and so he said, well, it should be the moral law, the moral reason. I said, bruh.
Morality has nothing to do with this is money.
If the Democrats see it as moral and the Republicans see it as fiscally responsible, I don't give a damn how you arrive at it. I said, if you are impacted by it, it don't matter.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true with the money. It's interesting to flip through Cory Booker's dear colleague from May 17. One of his biggest gripes right at the top of the letter was that the civil rights groups were excluded. He lists the ACLU and the NAACP, that they were not in the conversation. And I'm not saying they should not have been in the conversation. It would have been nice if they had been. But to me, that is not a substantive reason to be against a piece of legislation, particularly in a country that leads the world in incarceration, the rate of incarceration. But one of the biggest issues, too, in this bill, it was sort of problematic for everybody, is the issue of retroactivity. There's nothing retroactive in the bill. And typically when you do have a sentencing reform bill and they change something in the law with regard to sentencing, they do make it retroactive. So that was a big sticking point for the Democrats. And I get it. But again, it is better than nothing. It definitely is better than nothing.
And again, to everybody who's watching, first of all, what we're going to do over the next several days is literally break this bill down so you fully understand. Because I can tell you, after I met with Jared Kushner back in May, I had lots of conversations with Congressman Hakeem Jeffries and others. I had talked about this on the Tom Jordan Morning Show and also had tweeted about it when I was at one of the Houston Rockets playoff games against the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference Finals. Boy, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee was not happy at all and hemmed me up in the club under the stadium. And I just told her point blank, I said, Congresswoman, you're gonna have to. I said, you keep telling me it's bad. You're going to explain to me how the chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus, Cedric Richmond, voted for
endorsing it.
You're going to explain to me how Congressman Jim Clyburn, the highest-ranking African-American, is voted for it.
Well, Sheila Jackson,
me, so that means there were blacks who were on that committee who voted for the House bill.
Sheila Jackson Lee is problematic. She is for mandatory minimums. Try to get her to talk about mandatory minimums. Try to get her to say that she's against mandatory minimums. And one of the things that is problematic, if you say you're for meaningful sentencing reform, you have to have a conversation against mandatory minimums, which is a conversation she won't have. And she's probably going to be chair, I believe, of the crime committee once again under House Judiciary. So that's a problem. That's a huge problem. One of the other issues that Cory Booker had was that the bill gave too much discretion to Jeff Sessions, specifically Jeff Sessions, not just the Attorney General, right?
But to Jeff Sessions.
Now that Jeff Sessions is gone, and when the minute Sessions walked out, I emailed Jared Kushner. I said, "Your bill is going to move because Jeff Sessions was a major problem.
Oh no, Jeff Sessions,
major
Jeff
problem.
Was fighting this thing tooth and nail.
Right.
And the White House, and
anything,
you talk to them, they said he was a problem. He was
Right.
constantly trying to block it.
Yeah.
And it was like they were doing end arours with Trump. Like, okay, keep Sessions away from him on this, so he won't even listen to him because he literally was. He didn't want any of this.
And anything that reduces the number of people behind bars, Jeff Sessions was against.
Yeah.
That's why, as you mentioned, Tom Cotton. All eyes on Tom Cotton because he's another one. So is Ted Cruz. But if they got this far and they've got the president up there, something is about to happen.
And one of the things, and just
LinkedIn Joe.
Just one more quick thing. We're here in the District of Columbia, and one of the things that's in the bill is that they were, I think it's you can't an inmate can't be housed outside of 500 miles of their
That was a big.
Which you think about it, you say to yourself, "Wow, this is something." So with D.C., we don't have a jail here in D.C. So our relatives could be sent to California, but those are like simple things. It's not a perfect bill.
Yeah, the relatives your inmates in D.C. are sent to California.
Oh wow!
And they are sent to Oklahoma. But here's the other thing, in that New York Times piece you wrote with Jeff Sessions, it really stood out for me when he talked about the sovereignty of this. It's states' rights.
Right.
That's what he's referring to. It's once again him holding up states' rights. And let us also keep in mind, the more prisoners that you have in these states, the more you get to use them to do what? You get to use them as free labor.
Goes back to the peonage system.
And that's exactly what we're dealing with.
Now, also, last point here, folks, do understand, this is a federal bill. It only impacts about 200,000, actually not all 200,000, but any federal bill dealing with prisons only impacts about 200,000 people. There are 2.3 million people who are in prison or local jails in America. 2.1 million are state and local. And so this is not going to impact those state and local folks. But what it does, though, the federal government taking this position, you do have, and I hate using the phrase because we think about Reaganomics, it has a trickle-down effect. So when the federal government makes changes, then states then begin to look at this and also begin to make changes as well. And so we'll certainly, again, keep you up to date on what happens with this particular bill. Let's go to Georgia, folks, where vote counting goes on, and Stacey Abrams is now down to needing just 17,000 more votes to force a runoff. Now, there are still pending lawsuits that seek to count more ballots that were rejected by local officials, and if there are any late decisions, we'll certainly let you know. Now, to combat all the calls to stop counting votes, Abrams' campaign today released this video.
Behind every vote is a voice. The voices of our family members, friends, our communities. The voices of Georgia. This election, was your voice heard? Too many were silenced.
The Abrams campaign continues to push for all of the state's ballots to be counted.
Election officials are still counting votes. Provisional ballots yet to be counted. 31,000 uncounted ballots.
We are still continuing to follow this.
For every voice to be heard, every vote must be counted. Share your story.
All right, folks. Now, State Senator Nikema Williams of Atlanta was attending a Black Voters Matter protest at the state capitol on yesterday to demand all the votes be counted. Well, this happened.
I stood peacefully next to my constituents because they wanted their voices to be heard, and now I'm being arrested. What's your name? Nikema Williams, State Senator for District 39.
Did they tell you why? What are they charging you with?
Because I did not disperse. I did not leave the floor. The legislature is in a special session. The Senate convened at 10 a.m. this morning. I've been here since 9 a.m. And because I didn't leave the floor when they said everyone must disperse, I'm being arrested.
The first-term Atlanta Democrat was charged with obstruction and disrupting the General Assembly. 14 others were also arrested. An investigation is going on into her arrest. Let's go to Florida, where Rick Scott recused himself from any role in certifying his own election. Wow, what a bright idea. The recount continues there. It's not clear if all countings will be done by the deadline and what that means. Also, there are no new totals, so we don't know yet whether Andrew Gillum or incumbent Senator Bill Nelson are catching up. And so that's going on there. One huge race still happening is also in Mississippi, where Mike Espy, where he is running against Cindy Hyde-Smith, the Republican incumbent. And what has been happening there is quite interesting, is because, again, folks in Mississippi have been really, Democrats have been keeping this thing under the radar for quite some time. But the reality is Mike Espy is going to need a huge black turnout in order for him to actually beat Cindy Hyde-Smith. black folks make up 40% of the electorate in Mississippi. Now, there's a super PAC that dropped an ad that dealt with the issue of Cindy Hyde-Smith, basically saying she would have no issues if invited to a public hanging by someone who actually endorsed her. Check this ad out. Now, Joe Biden says she's done apologize for that. She's doubled down on it as well. And I understand the point Democrats are trying to make by not trying to bring lots of attention to this race. But the reality is, this is a runoff. It's taking place the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. Mike Espy, in order for him to have any shot, is going to have to turn out a significant number of black folks. I'm talking about to the tune in those black counties of 80 to 85 or 90% to pick up, again, some white support as well. And so it's not like a massive number of people voted in the general election in this campaign. And so if he's able to get anywhere from 400,000 to 500,000 votes, largely African Americans, he could win.
You got the arithmetic. I mean, 2 and 2 is 4. You've explained it all. I mean, that's a very interesting spot. It's obviously playing on people's emotions and historical memory. I guess what worries me and what I've been hearing people calling into the show, Roland, and saying is, well, we voted in the November midterm. Why do we have to do it again? And the analogy that I've made is that if you went to the Super Bowl and it was tied, you don't leave, in overtime. Yeah. And this is overtime. And this is where you get a second chance. I can only say on your program sitting here is that, look, folk in Mississippi, and my family's Clarksdale and Moss Point, look, folks, get out and vote. It's what John Lewis said during the midterm. I bled for your right to vote. I'm not asking you to bleed. I'm just asking you to vote.
Who came up with the strategy of let's not talk about it after watching Doug Jones win in the neighboring state? I mean, it makes no sense. The neighboring state.
And that was interesting because what Democrats would kept saying is they say we're trying to use the same strategy we did with Doug Jones, and I said
it was loud.
That was a hell of a lot of attention that was focused on that.
Yeah.
And so look, we were supposed to have Mike Espy on the show on yesterday. They canceled because they had the National Baptist Convention, they had the state conference. He was attending that as well. But it's also, I know, Joe, you've been trying to get him on the show as well.
Yeah,
I've said point blank. As a matter of fact, I just while we were talking, my phone was ringing. That was actually the Mike Espy campaign manager hit me right now, and I said, look, at the end of the day, you got to get folks in there, and the Thanksgiving is a problem because, frankly, for a lot of people, they taken off on Monday. Then, of course, Thanksgiving on Thursday. The election is the following Tuesday, and so really, it's a short window to really drive a GOTV plan, get out the vote effort.
Can I make one other point? And this goes back to when the young people did the gun demonstration, anti-gun demonstration. I ran into Tom Perez on the street, and we were talking about what the Democrats are going to do. And at that time, they had not paid any attention to Mike Epstein. It was amazing. And I sat there, whoa, wait a minute, bro. Don't write off Mississippi, and please check Mike out. And he said, you know what? I think we'll do that. It's something, and maybe they finally realized it and listened.
Well, it also makes no sense, as Espy is not exactly a liberal. I mean, this is a fairly moderate Democrat, right? And it's like, why would you not want to toy with that?
Here's what it is, Malik. It's because, frankly, Democrats have taken the position of we can never win in Mississippi.
Right.
We can never win in Alabama. And the point that I keep saying is you can never win if you never try. try.
Yeah.
Right.
And,
Right,
you know,
right.
I'm from Mississippi. I went to school with SB's family.
Mm-hmm.
I went to high school, middle school, and I think even maybe elementary school. So I'm familiar with the family. I'll just start out by saying that what Cindy said, they were inappropriate. I think they were racially insensitive. I think she should apologize full-throatedly for it. I don't think that she's a racist. She was a lifelong Democrat and Hillary Clinton supporter, actually. But this is one of those things that makes it hard. Mike is going to have a pretty...
Hell, Bull Connor was also a Democrat.
Well, yeah, good point.
You're talking about the Southern strategy. Yeah.
But Mike, he's going to have
Strong
a pretty
Thurman was a Democrat.
hard time there. I think probably 88% or so of blacks supported him in this runoff, so they're going to have to get a really strong showing with blacks in order for him to
And to Joe's point, the reality is, look, it is a runoff.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to go out and vote
You have
again.
to do it.
And so, bottom line is, look, it ain't that damn hard.
Yeah.
And so, I do know you got people out there who are mobilizing when it comes to vans, when it comes to buses. The issue is the short date. Unlike Georgia, which is December 4th, okay, you got some space between Thanksgiving and that day.
the Tuesday
It's literally the
afterwards.
Tuesday after Thanksgiving.
As some people are getting
and
back.
so that's one of the things that's happening there. And so we'll see what's happening. I do also know that Senator Cory Booker, he was down there. I think Senator Kamala Harris, she goes down to Mississippi this weekend.
They should be.
That's
There's
a huge,
there's
that's a
rivalry
big,
there. Benny
of course they're
Thompson.
gonna
that's a
go
big,
now.
They
that's a
should be in
big
Benny
HBCU
Thompson's.
Classic taking place this weekend, Alcorn State and Jackson State. And so you have those things that are
Capital
going
City
on as
Classic.
well. Congressman, I've been talking to Congressman Benny Thompson as well, and FC. Now it was happening on Tuesday in Jackson at 11 a.m. Pastor Jerry Young, who is actually the national president of the National Baptist Convention USA, happens to be SB's pastor. He's bringing together upwards of 800 pastors from all around Mississippi to get in their marching orders on Tuesday at 11 a.m.
It makes no
Democrats
sense.
should have done that beforehand. You
I'm
know, I'm a
right,
Republican,
exactly.
but Democrats
No,
should have
exactly.
done that beforehand.
Right.
Mike Espy was not as sexy as Stacey Abrams and Gillum.
But I also think
Yeah,
it's
but-
what Roland
They
said.
don't believe they can win.
But the
They,
thing
they
is,
did not. They did not think they. I'm sorry. They did not think they
sorry.
could take Mississippi as a.
And the history is there.
And,
well, a third of the state is Benny Thompson's district.
Right.
So I'm not understanding and talking to Benny Thompson, even though I know there's a little bit of a rivalry between him and Espy, but whatever, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to see a Democrat in the Senate. But the point is, he doesn't care about that. He wants the Democrat to win.
Right.
So it makes no sense that, the Democrats act like this race isn't happening. It's very quiet.
Yep. So we'll see what happens. But of course, we'll be focusing on this race every single day between now and November 27th. And I might very well be on the.
Hey, and Mike, will you please show up on our show?
Oh,
we do have. Hey, Mike, we do have an audience.
No. Trust me, Joe. I've already told his wife, do your show. Trust
All
me.
right.
I got your back.
And if I see them, I'll tell them.
Yeah. No. He's on tomorrow.
Oh, he's on tomorrow.
After they canceled
okay.
yesterday, I was like,
yeah, because we were supposed to get him on this week also, and they posted.
no.
Yeah.
He'll be on your show.
All right.
I've already talked to the wife. See, sometimes.
I know who you. Who's in charge.
Sometimes
right?
you got. That's why you always talk to the wife when some other folk ain't doing right. All right, folks. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Y'all want to see one of the most stuck on stupid things I've ever seen? Y'all, Mitch McConnell actually had the audacity, the unmitigated gall, to write an op-ed, and he wrote this. What we can make of those opportunities will depend on our Democratic colleagues. Will they choose to go it alone and simply make political points? Or will they choose to work together and actually make a difference? Malik, I'm going to start with you. What the hell? I mean, this is a man who for the last 2 years has said the hell with Democrats, who ignored the blue slip process, and even where Republicans were objecting to a federal judge, he and Chuck Grassley said, we don't care, we're ignoring that rule or that tradition in the United States Senate. They did not even talk to Democrats when it came to the health care, did not talk to Democrats when it came to tax reform. They did not care at all. And so now all of a sudden, because Democrats win the House, he is saying, are you going to also play nice with us? Really? Mitch McConnell, sit the hell down.
Well, I mean, I don't agree that they didn't. He wasn't willing to work with Democrats at all. But,
Show me evidence.
But what I do.
No. Show me evidence.
Well, but I do
Show
believe,
me evidence.
Well, there are bills that have come out of Congress.
What bills?
There are several bills that have come. They
Name
may
'em.
not. They may not have had bipartisan support.
Name 'em.
Well, come on, Roland. We
No,
know that.
no.
I'm sorry, but
No.
Yeah,
If you're gonna say there's evidence, present the evidence.
I said that Democrats may have opposed some of the legislation that have come out of it, but this is where we are with politics.
Can you show me where Mitch McConnell in the last 2 years actually tried to have a bipartisan effort with Democrats? Take your time.
I'm sure if I had a moment, I'm sure I can come up with
No,
something.
hold on. You got a moment.
No,
Joe, go
we're
ahead
live.
and talk and think for a second. No. I want
Hold
you
on.
to come up with some. I want you to pick your phone up and Google it, try
You
to
wanna go
find it
first?
while Joe and Lauren are talking
There
to
is-
find me some evidence.
There's one, the trade bill. Remember the trade bill that Obama passed and the Democrats were against it. Elizabeth
Tax
Warren was
reform.
against it. Not tax reform.
Nah, what tax
Oh.
reform?
The trade
Nice try.
The trade bill was like the only thing I can think of.
Well, let me
You know.
let me go way back.
But I mean,
And I told you, I always say, an old politician once told me, you listen with a third ear, read with a third eye. The third eye and what I read in my ear and what I was listening to. Do we remember when President Obama got elected and we were all around here in Washington at the inaugural dances, and there were
January 20th.
and there were a group of Republicans that were in a
2008.
restaurant not
2009,
far
sorry.
from here that
Yeah.
said, we don't care what he introduces.
Right.
We are not going to work with this president, and we're going to make sure he fails.
Make sure he's a one-term president.
But that they're willing to work with him. That's another part of the quote that people
I'm
don't-
talking about this.
Mitch McConnell.
What he just wrote. So now what he's saying is, will the Democrats work with us when he's on record, along with the Republican leadership, having said, when our first black president got elected, I'm not going to work with him.
But he did actually say that he was willing to work with him. There's another part
But
to that
wait a
statement
minute.
that
Why
people
are
left
you?
off.
Here's what I don't.
Did that happen?
Why are
Yeah.
you ignoring? Wait a minute.
I can
Why
find it.
are you ignoring a meeting with Republican leadership that said they went on record?
Whether they went on record, I'm pretty sure that Democrats, their goal is to make Trump a one-term president.
No, they said no.
But Democrats may not have articulated that specific line. But I'm sure Democrats have no interest
young man,
in
I'm
Obama
sorry.
making. of Trump being a two-term president.
Look, I'm going to tell you. Listen.
Do you think that Democrats want to make Trump a two-term
Look, I'm not
president?
answering questions. I'm not here to answer your question. Now, let me make it very clear.
Okay.
Let me make it very clear. They met in the caucus room.
Yeah.
And they said, we will not support anything this president does, even if it hurts our constituents.
And Democrats have not done that.
I didn't finish my sentence.
Okay, but Democrats have not done that at all.
I didn't finish my sentence.
Okay, but Democrats have not done that at all.
See, no, this is the way they play this game.
What is the play? What
Wait
is
a
the
minute.
play?
play is not
See,
paying attention to
Joe,
what
go
he's
ahead.
saying.
Joe, go ahead.
Because because it's the way you try to get folk off the last
Right.
meaningful sentence.
Right.
Even if it hurts our own constituents. Now that's what they said. Then when you read this, it's like, oh, well, how about you guys work with us?
Right.
You should have not said that on January 20th of 2009.
Right.
And now what you're doing is asking the Democrats to play with you when you went on record. Now, they didn't keep that promise. You know why? Because they couldn't. Because their constituents weren't going to allow themselves to be hurt.
I mean, even Republicans are laughing at Mitch McConnell.
Thank you.
Even they're going, damn, Mitch, now, come on now. Don't even act like
But
you
let's not pretend that meeting, they did everything but cut their wrist and make blood donations.
Lord.
But see, the bigger thing here is these people have been in control of the Supreme Court, the U.S. House, the U.S. Senate, and the White House, and still have found a way to sit around and whine for 2 years about Barack Obama and all this other stuff and get absolutely nothing done.
This is a man.
It's unbelievable.
And let me just remind the folks at home. See, I just want y'all to know. See, this is why they ain't want people, people look like me to read. Why they ain't want that to happen. Here's what actually happened. In North Carolina, Obama appointed 2 black women. One of them who has served on the state Supreme Court, I believe she was the Chief Justice, to the federal bench. Tom Tillis, as well as, who's the other Republican from Richard Burr? They blocked both sisters, both of them, from being appointed. Trump wins. What do? They appoint Thomas Farr, the man who argued the voter ID law in North Carolina that was deemed unconstitutional by a conservative Supreme Court. They nominated him to the very seat where they blocked those 2 black women. I don't recall Mitch McConnell talking about bipartisanship when that happened. It's a fact where in Wisconsin, the Republican Johnson, as well as the Democrat United States Senator, both Tammy Baldwin, they put a blue slip in to block a Trump appointee to the federal bench. Senator Chuck Grassley and Mitch McConnell ignored the blue slip from both of them. And so, Mitch McConnell, you have no room whatsoever to say anything about bipartisanship because you have not done it. You have not led. And so this is a laughable column. And I appreciate the laughter today on my 50th birthday because, you know, it's like Comedy Central. You can't get laughs all the time from some networks. And I'm sure people at Fox News had to be laughing like, y'all, okay, we're going to put this under the comedy section, what Mitch McConnell just sent us. Because, Malik, it is a joke. Yeah. And how he has led, it has been an iron fist. Because not only that, let me also correct people. They keep saying that Harry Reid got put in place nuclear option. No, let me give you the nuance. Harry Reid kept the nuclear option in place for Supreme Court justices. Yeah. Mitch McConnell said we will have it where it's 51. Had the rules been in place, and stayed that way with a nuclear option, Brett Kavanaugh would have never been confirmed to the United States Supreme Court because he would not have gotten 60 votes. That is a fact.
Okay. So I just want to clarify something.
Go ahead,
because it's something that Democrats and the media has said for a while. McConnell said the single most important thing we want to achieve is for President Obama to be a one-term president. He went on to say that it is possible that the president's advisors will tell him he has to do something to get things right. If he were to heed that advice, he would, I imagine, find more support around our conference. Now, this is actually something that he said on.
No, I want you to go back. Give me the qualifier.
So the question that they asked after he said the single most important thing, they said, well, does that mean endless or at least frequent confrontation with the president? McConnell says immediately, if President Obama does a Clintonian backflip, if he's willing to meet us halfway on some of the biggest issue, it's not inappropriate for us to do business with him. And he said this on October.
Okay.
He said this on October 23rd, 2010,
and
not January.
Hold on,
not January, as has been suggested.
Lauren and Joe, please, please provide the number of efforts where Obama did that very thing.
No,
and if
this is just a clarification of what the facts are.
Joe, go ahead.
So you disagree
Joe,
with these?
Go ahead and handle this. Matter of fact, I'm just going to take my jacket off.
Excuse me. No. Don't sit there and look at me with those doe eyes, brother. Let me tell you this. You have got to understand, that's a public statement. I know what those Republicans said privately. I am telling you that my conversation with them who were in the room, listen, who were in the room on January 20th, talked to some of us who have long-standing relationships, even though they may be of the opposite party. And I asked them directly, did y'all do this? Oh, yeah, we did it. Matter of fact, Newt Gingrich admitted on Fox, we did it, and it's really no big deal because the Democrats do it too. So please, I hear what you're reading is
from the Washington Post.
Excuse me. What you're reading is accurate. It's a public statement. It does not negate what I'm telling people happened in the caucus room on that night.
But the statement that we're referencing happened in October of 2010.
It doesn't negate.
Malik, Lauren, correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lauren. Didn't Obama try to get a construction bill through?
Yeah.
Did Republicans vote for it?
Of course not.
Didn't Obama pass a stimulus bill that had 40% tax cuts of the bill. Did Republicans back that?
Of course not.
All right, I'm just saying. I just gave y'all two.
That very,
but go ahead.
that
You had
very
Republicans
year,
that walked out of that meeting, walked out of that dinner and said, yeah, that's what we said.
the very year that McConnell said that, there was a sit-down at the White House with all the Republicans on the House and Senate side over health care, and they had this, arrangement in the big square in the East Room, and everybody was there. Don't worry about his makeup.
Okay.
Everybody was there. Everything was cool, and remember that the Republicans had their little talking point. We're just going to repeal and replace, and they said it over again.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I'm not expecting the opposition of a party to agree with the opposite party. I'm not expecting that, but there was clearly a group effort to not really sit down and work on the details of policy.
I believe that.
When it comes to health care in particular, you saw it because there's a lot to work out, and there was some things they could have agreed on, like pre-existing conditions, and I think later on a lot of Republicans said, you know what, that's not a bad idea to have your kid on the policy until they're 24.
Correct.
So it came in later, but clearly there was kind of an agreement to say, as we're seeing, unfortunately, with this justice reform bill, seeing the flip of that on that particular issue. But it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
That's why I think a lot of politicians
And Boehner, remember the conversations we used to have with Boehner, who couldn't use the word compromise?
Right.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
It came out of that meeting, and it wasn't just a group of Republicans. This was your leadership.
And we circled back, and we're going to experience the same thing now with Democrats.
You don't know that.
Not really.
No, you haven't, because Nancy Pelosi. Excuse me. Darn it! What is wrong with people? Nancy Pelosi came out today and said, we're willing to work. There's been no meeting inside.
We'll see what her caucus says, though.
Well, I'm telling you, there's been no meeting to say.
Well, we don't know that.
Excuse me.
Yet.
Okay, we don't know that there has not been a meeting to say that we're not going to work with the Republicans.
Well,
you have not heard that.
Let's be clear on something else, too. Let's be clear on something else, too.
Well, it's not logical. I just don't agree with what your character was.
Let's be clear.
But logic really.
Okay, but this was a logic. This was an article that you disagreed with.
Excuse me, I'm not disagreeing with it.
Okay, but I was clarifying that happened in October of 2010.
Shout to the hills.
Well, you can shout to the hills, but again, the statement that you said happened in October of 2010.
What are you clarifying?
What are you clarifying?
The statement happened in October. It wasn't in January. It was in October.
Mitch McConnell said, I want to make him a one-term president. What are you clarifying?
He may have said that, but the remarks that we're talking about, so as reported by the Washington Post, those remarks actually happened in October of 2010.
So
2 years later.
Okay. But it didn't happen it didn't happen in January, though, as you said.
What did he say?
Again, Malik.
Yeah, I mean, I get your point.
Malik.
But that's the rest of the statement where he said that he was willing to work with him.
No, Malik.
I just read that.
It's not. First of all, what you're reading is 2010.
Right.
What Joe said took place on January 20th, 2009. And then what we also know what happened was, and we have the evidence.
What happened?
We literally had the evidence where Obama put forth bills that were Republican bills, and they still would not support.
Hypocrites. And we're going to see. We're going to see that now.
The other little detail.
We're going to see that now.
No,
we're saying
wait a minute.
Who are hypocrites? You said McConnell
we were saying that Republicans, we can say that they were hypocrites for not
check.
supporting Obama.
Okay, all right.
Your other
issue
too is that the President of the United States, the current president who's Republican, has made it his mission in life to repeal what President Obama did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the idea that somehow the Democratic Party, I love it when Republicans say, well, but the Democrats do it too. Really?
Yeah.
Really, Democrats do it too. People got mad at Bill Clinton for negotiating with the Republican Party over
on the crime
welfare
bill.
return,
On
welfare
the crime
reform
bill
and
that
the
we're
crime
trying
bill.
to fix now.
Yeah, okay, whatever. And,
it's
and
true.
so you want to go back to Nixon? You want to go back?
We
want to
know
go back down the criminal justice reform path? And you're going to blame Clinton?
As long as we can go back to super predator Hillary Clinton.
Whatever. All of Republican argument
She said
is
super
changing
predator,
the subject.
a myth.
That's what
she
they
called
do.
black kids a myth.
They changed the subject. Now he's talking about Hillary Clinton.
But you said, do we want to go? You were going to go back. But you were going to go back to Nixon.
They do.
Well, actually, no. I go back to last year where Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas actually said we need more people in prison.
And the reason they changed the subject is
no.
You can't defend
Republican Tom Cotton of Arkansas said we need more people in prison. He has replaced Jeff Sessions as the most staunch prison person in the United States Senate.
And Ted Cruz.
Yeah,
these are Republicans.
All right, y'all. Let's go to a break right now. When we come back, I'm going to tell you about some breaking news involving Michael Avenatti. He's in jail right now. That's up next. The Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights.
All right, folks, hashtag HBCU Giving Day. Our university of the day is Dillard University in New Orleans, Louisiana. Founded in 1869, notable alumni, activist, of course, ambassador, former Atlanta Mayor Andrew Young, PBS Pinchback, the first black governor of Louisiana, and Martin Luther King Sr., pastor and father of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Also, actor and comedian Garrett Morris. And plus, of course, their president. He's an alpha. All right, folks, to give the Dillard, go to Dillard, Dillard.edu, Dillard.edu. You can follow the president on Twitter at Hip Hop Prez. That's right, Walter Kimbrough. What up, 06? All right, y'all. Let's, Henry, go to my iPad, please. This news just came in. TMZ's reporting Michael Avenatti arrested for felony domestic violence. According to them, him and a woman filed a domestic violence report saying that her face was swollen and bruised with red marks on both cheeks. It apparently took place on Tuesday night, but there was another confrontation on Wednesday between the two. They say she was heard on the sidewalk screaming at her cell phone, "I can't believe you did this to me. I'm going to get a restraining order against you." TMZ says we're told security brought her inside the building, took her upstairs, and Michael showed up 5 minutes later and ran into the building. He screamed repeatedly, "She hit me first." We're told he angrily added, "This is bullshit. This is effing bullshit." We're told he tried getting to the elevator, but security denied him access. And so cops, they arrested him. Apparently, he kicked her out of the apartment, and then that's when the alleged domestic violence took place. TMZ says we're told Avenatti is currently in custody, and so we shall let you know more about that when it happens. All right, folks. A white nationalist was arrested in D.C. last week. Jeffrey Clark Jr. said online that the victims of the Pittsburgh synagogue massacre deserved it, and the attack was a dry run. He was arrested after family members alerted police to the posting. Clark, according to the police, fantasized about killing Jews and blacks. He was arrested on gun charges. Now, this is no shock because the FBI announced yesterday a 17% increase in reported hate crimes last year. This is the third consecutive year that reported hate crimes have increased. What's the common denominator? The orange one. It's the single biggest spike since the surge of incidents targeting Muslims after the attacks on 9/11. Now, although anti-Semitic hate crimes grew by 37% and get most of the attention, 3 out of every 5 hate crimes are against black folks. Only 13% of police agencies reported a hate crime, so the actual numbers of hate crimes in the U.S. could be a hell of a lot larger. Okay, yesterday we told you about that crazy white woman in Texas, the professor at the University of Texas at San Antonio. Well, you know, she's the one who called the cops on the sister who had her feet up on the desk. Well, the university has acted, and the professor, Anita Moss, will remain out of the classroom for the remainder of the semester as investigations are conducted. The university said both the professor and the student met with officials separately. The student has been offered multiple options for continuing her studies. Now, the university president, Taylor Amy, sent out another email to students last night. Here's part of what he said. No matter the outcome of the investigations, the incident shows issues that extend far beyond the events of yesterday. The reactions expressed through social media, emails, phone calls, and group meetings I've attended confirm that feelings of marginalization on the part of some students, especially our African-American students, are real and profound. The bottom line, regardless of the final outcomes regarding yesterday's incident, we have an obligation as an institution to take a hard look at our campus climate, especially for students of color, and enact systemic change to make UTSA a more inclusive campus. Now, also an update on the black security guard who was shot and killed by a white cop in Illinois. The Wall Street Journal reported today that the Illinois State Police say Roberson refused multiple orders to drop his gun and was wearing no markings indicating he was security. Now, late today, we talked with Lee Merritt, who has been hired by the family to represent Jamel Roberson. He told us his witnesses say when the police told Robert Roberson to stop, they and others shouted, "He's security," and that there were white letters spelling out security on his hat and vest. Merritt has filed a $1 million wrongful death suit on behalf of the family. Now, here's what's crazy right here. Okay, this is real simple. It ain't hard to figure out, okay, was he wearing a shirt or a hat that says security?
Right.
Was that protocol in the bar? I mean, I don't understand how, like, I'm sorry, if he was wearing it, dude, there you go.
Yeah,
there you go. But here's the other piece. From the police standpoint, I'd be very curious to, first of all, were there body cameras? Mm-hmm. 2, was anyone rolling on video in terms of what took place. And look, I'm sorry, y'all can say whatever y'all want to, but we know cops lie all the time when it comes to police reports, especially when they shoot and kill somebody, Joe.
And you had people saying he's security. He is security. I mean, that's clear, and I think that's what they're going to find out. And the policemen have been calling my show almost 100%. I can't think of one that called that said he was right. They all said he simply was wrong. He did not follow proper procedures. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. This is terrible. And then back to the professor, the biology professor.
Yeah.
Look, man, folks are emboldened. And the other story about this white supremacist, this one hits home, a little close to home for me, because he lives not far from where our studio is. And see, the bottom line, black folk, you're supposed to be fearful of black people. I'll be honest with you, maybe we ought to reverse this. Maybe we ought to be fearful of some white people, because the last few weeks, you've not seen black folk walk into a synagogue and shoot old people in the back of the head. You've not seen black folks do these mass killings. The majority of mass killings in the United States of America are done primarily by young white men. And, we need to get real. And on this Thanksgiving Day, I'm with you. Will you tell that crazy uncle at the Thanksgiving table, quit calling 911 on black folk? Just stop it. Or that crazy aunt.
No, actually it's white women. It's white women, because we got another crazy white woman, this time in Maryland. She calls a black man the N-word because she didn't like the way he drove out of his parking spot. Yeah, I'm dead serious. And remember last week we had the white woman who was mad because the car was like 2 inches in the walkway. And so this man's wife, Dawn Lennon, gets out to confront her. The white woman was wearing a Redskins jacket. And then the white woman is a teacher in Prince George's County, which, of course, is 62% black. Oh, yes. Yes.
But like, can I add one story that you...
There's video. Hold on. Right after the video. Press play.
Oh, okay.
Did you just call my husband the N-word? Yeah, I did. In front of my children? You just called my husband the N-word in front of my children. Did you? Touch me. Do it. You go to jail. You go. What? Next time you're going to say it to the wrong person. And I ain't going to be as nice. And I got your license plate number too. And it will be on the internet. You're on the internet, ma'am, so keep on being racist. You live with black people. Get used to it.
I keep telling y'all crazy white women, this is going to lead to the end of black unemployment. Because every time one of y'all act a fool. So we're going to give y'all, real quick, I know the show's supposed to be over at 7. I'm going to do this in 30 seconds. Okay, so all black people, I'm about to give y'all the rules when y'all dealing with crazy-ass white women, also crazy white women. First of all, what I want y'all to do is I want you to turn your phone horizontal.
Landscape.
And the reason I want your phone to be landscape is that way, when we play the video, it fills the whole screen. See, when you shoot this way, what happens is we got the black bars on the side. So we need y'all to have them, because see, television is in 16:9, and so then we get to fill the whole screen up. Okay, that's first.
Right, thanks.
Okay, so when the white person act a fool, what I want y'all to do is, I want you to do a manual zoom in like this here. I want you to, Henry, give me a wide shot. Give me a wide shot. This is what I want y'all to do. I want you to zoom in and really get their face real good, and then you can zoom right out and get the wide shot. That's what I want y'all to do, okay? I want y'all to zoom in, I want y'all to zoom out. Okay, here's the last thing, and you're right. This sister was right. She shot the license plate. See, we can run the plate. We can run the plate and the make of the car anytime they act the fool. That way we ain't gonna be trying to guess who the hell they are. And so it'll make the search a lot quicker. So y'all get the license plate and then shoot them. And you're right, because here's the
narration.
You got the narration. Because the deal is this here. She gonna lose her job. Like the white boy lost his job in Florida, and the white boy in North Carolina,
in New York,
and the white boy in New York. Don't worry about it. They all gonna lose their jobs. And I'm telling y'all, when we know they lost their job, we should have 50 black people go to that employer to put in applications for the available job. And so to all y'all crazy white people, there are about 1.8 million unemployed black people. Every time y'all do one of these, y'all gonna help out black unemployment. So we should, so every crazy white person who act a fool and we get them fired, we should then replace them with black people.
But see, her narration. Did you just say the N-word? Yes, I did.
Call confirmation. Call confirmation.
Okay.
That's exactly how you do it.
Lem Barney and his wife, this is a story, you got to get this one, in Detroit. They went to get a pizza, and the manager told them, go someplace where you're more comfortable, meaning Southfield, where there were more black folk. But here's something reverse. They called the police.
There you go.
They called the police.
There you go. That's
Yeah.
how you do it. All right, folks. So today, I told you yesterday was my brother's birthday. Reginald Martin turned 51. Today's my birthday. I turned 50 years old. And so here's what's interesting.
Happy
So
birthday.
I appreciate that, Joe. So what's real interesting is folks have been asking me, oh, man, you're going to do a big party. Okay, so let me be just real clear, okay? Birthdays are not a big deal to me. So let me explain why. It wasn't a big deal when I turned 18 or 21. Actually, the biggest birthday for me was 25. My damn auto insurance went down. Okay, so 18, 21, 30, 40, 50 is not a big deal. Here's why. Because I think too many people, they make a big deal out of these milestone birthdays when really what you should be doing is enjoying life every single day. If you actually enjoy life every day and every hour, every minute, every second, it's not that big of a deal. So somebody said, well, are you going to throw the birthday party? Look, I'm going to be 50 between now and November 13th, 2019. I can throw a 50th damn birthday party in March or June if I want to. And you know what? And if I don't, I can throw a 50+1 party next year. The point I'm making is you need to learn how to love and live your life. My life motto is very simple. # live life, love it. I think for a whole bunch of people, what happens is they go through their life and they are mad, upset, and they're despondent and depressed because of how their life is. They look at other people's lives. They look at in terms of what they make, look at how much money and the vacations they take. And what you really should say is, look, this is the life I have. How can I live and enjoy it? Don't get so consumed by a birth date when what you should be saying is, if God wakes me up every single day and I've got breath in my body, I'm going to live today like it's my birthday. I'm going to live today like it is an absolutely amazing time. And so I appreciate all the birthday shout outs. I appreciate all of that. And I understand, again, how folks get excited. Because, see, for a lot of men, we understand the birth date. It's these sisters out here who took this shit from a birth date to a weekend, to a week, now it's a damn month. I know some sisters, they got like a night, they celebrate like literally the inception all the way through being carried. And so now they birthday like a 9-month thing, okay? And so y'all just taking that a little too far, all right?
Hey, y'all call Roland.
Y'all taking that a little too damn far. So all I'm saying is, what you should be doing is enjoying every single day of your life and live it to its fullest and be happy. That's what you should do. Okay? So I see they got a birthday cake for me over here.
No, just leave it.
Yeah, leave it. Yeah, no, go ahead and leave it with Joe. Get a shot of it, leave it with Joe. All right, so this is the birthday cake. Okay, hold up. We got to show it for the cameras. Don't worry about it. I got it. Babe, my mama did wedding cakes for 30 years. I done dealt with many cakes. All right, y'all can zoom in. And so what does this say? It says, happy birthday, Roland, from your friends at # Roland Martin Unfiltered. This actually came from the staff, which means I paid for this damn cake. And so, again, thanks a bunch. I appreciate that. And matter of fact, in D.C., so Mark Barnes, huh? Red Velvet. Oh, it's Red Velvet? Oh, really? There we go. Even the white people who work with black people, no. Okay? Don't come here with that damn white cake. I'm letting y'all know. Come with the Negro cake. I appreciate that. And so we appreciate it. Thank you so very much for everybody. Look, please support RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Of course, what we do here, unlike any other show out there, it's a whole bunch of people who are out there streaming, who are talking. But in terms of what we do, no one else is doing this 5 days a week. So we want you to join our fan club. Look, I don't care how much you give. We're asking our followers to give $50 for the whole year to join our fan club. And so when we do different things around the country, we're going to have discounts on products. We're also going to have special limitations, a lot of different stuff. But the reality is we want this to be independent. We want you to be able to support this because we need our voice telling our story, controlling our narrative. And so that's why it's critically important. So go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com to support what we do here because it is vital that we have platforms that tell our story. Okay, folks, tomorrow, Mike Epstein will be here.
Yeah.
He going to be here because his wife said he going to be here. And if he's not here, I'm going to call his wife and say, put him on the phone. And so we'll be talking about the Mississippi Senate race. And as Joe said, if you're in Mississippi, you better go vote on November 27th. And don't be staying at home and just somehow thinking it can't happen. Because guess what? A whole bunch of y'all thought a black man couldn't be president. A bunch of y'all in Massachusetts thought a black man couldn't be governor. In Virginia, they thought a black man could not be governor there as well. And guess what? And there are more black people in Miami-Dade County that actually voted. Andrew Gillum wouldn't be in a battle of his life right now. I'm gonna leave that one alone.
Hey, Roland.
Yes, sir.
Your birthday. This is $100.
I'll tell you. What we got? All right. Wait, what y'all reaching for?
I'll tell you, man.
What the hell y'all reaching for?
For your fan club from Sherry, Madison, and I.
There we go. That's what I'm saying.
And I challenge everybody watching. For his birthday, join the fan club. So I'm going to be the first.
All right.
Now, y'all, wait a minute. Y'all can pass it up.
Hey. Y'all didn't check to see if it's real. Pass it down.
There you go.
All right. So Joe Madison signed up 2 members of Bring the Funk fan club with a $100 bill. Let's see how many of y'all will join today. And I'm going to give the number tomorrow. So if you go right now, Bring the Funk fan, you can pay via Skype. You can pay Square. You can do the Cash app. You can also do PayPal as well. If y'all want to do all that, we'll give you the address to send a check. It's all good. We take all forms of money. But if it bounce, I'm going to show up at your damn house. Yeah. All right, y'all have a great day. I got to go. Holla!